Hello and welcome once again to another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. Thanks for joining me. We're doing new releases for June 20th, 2025, and just clipping right along here through June. It was super cold here this week, rainy. Now it's getting super hot. So if I look like I'm in a full sweat, you'll know why. It's just like all of a sudden the season's changed. So I'm basically just gonna just jump in. We didn't really have any box sets to talk about this week. Next week there are some. But let me just get started here so I can make this video a little shorter. I keep promising shorter videos. It doesn't happen. Okay. But the first thing I want to highlight, this actually came out last week and it came in on CD, but it did not come on vinyl. So I feel like I have to show it. It's Patrick Wolf's new album, Crying the Neck. Patrick was one of my favorite singers. He has not made a record for 12 or 13 years. He made maybe 5, 6, 7 albums over the course of his first years between ages 20 and 30. And went through a lot of trouble in the last 10 years. Was in a hit and run accident. His mom died. He had some problems with substances, etc., etc. He's back on track, and he has this new album. He says he has 4 planned. This actually features the first single, Limbo, with Zola Jesus. She's got a very unique voice. I really like her voice. I highly recommend that you check this out. If you're not familiar with Patrick, this is a very beautiful album. His voice is it's a kind of a croony baritone, but it's sort of next level. He plays violin and keyboards, or strings and keyboards. Think he did all the string arrangements on it, or most of them, and they're fantastic. And he's a super talented guy. I think, I don't know, he's just, I'm so glad to hear his voice back in the world. This is sort of a double album. It's 1.5 sides. So here, but yeah, and what else can I say about him except if you're into things like chamber rock, chamber pop, some Brit pop a little bit, sort of that kind of more like Suede Divine Comedy sort of side of things, or some of Bowie's more kind of like croony records. Scott Walker, Mark Almond, those people. He's kind of along those lines, a little more sort of the chamber side, but he does do some kind of synthy stuff once in a while. But anyway, it's a great album. I highly recommend that. It's not my recommend of the week because it's a new album, but if I were to recommend one that is new, I would recommend that. Going along here with this week's new releases, Haim return with their new album, I Quit. And this is the trio sisters, sister trio. I think their 4th or 5th album, released by Columbia. Columbia has really been pushing them for a while. They've got quite a few tracks on here, maybe 15 or so. But yeah, they're very good. This is the indie retail exclusive on light blue vinyl. And I've really liked a lot of their records. They're sort of pop rock if you're into like 70s FM kind of stuff or whatever. They tend to sometimes go a little rockier. I had one friend who went to see them once, and he said it was the loudest show he'd ever been to. So maybe sometimes that's a little bit like unexpected from them. Alana Haim is now like an actress and starred in that Licorice Pizza movie a couple years back. And I think is doing another film or just did another film. Yeah, and Danielle is a great singer. And anyway, and if check out some of their live videos, because the sister that plays bass, I can't remember her name right now. She makes real crazy faces. Usually, that's the thing that people always talk about. They remember about Haim, but when they play live, this guy Benson Boone, boy, he's just not wasting any time. That other record came out a little while ago, and this one is sort of the next. He's getting it out quick there while striking while the iron's hot. This is his new album, American Heart, on America marbled vinyl. It's red, white, and blue marbled vinyl, which is sort of cool. He loves to take his shirt off all the time, and he does lots of flips. He's the guy that does the flips off the piano. You probably saw him at the Grammys. He's got a really, he goes into his high range a lot, and it's, well, I don't know what to say about it. He sort of like did a recent appearance at Coachella with Brian May of Queen. They did Bohemian Rhapsody, and so he has a sort of a semi-operatic type rock voice is kind of what he's going for. But Benson Boone and his new record. Kind of interested to hear this one, the new Government Mule from Warren Haynes and Company, and it's called Revolution Come Revolution Go. And this is, well, it's actually, this is not new. I'm sorry, this is a reissue. From 2017 is when this came out. I think the reason that they put this out on vinyl, I don't know if it was sort of out on vinyl the first time, but it has like kind of like more political themes that might be sort of, I suppose, go with what's going on right now. One track, Burning Point, features Jimmy Vaughn. So anyway, a new reissue, sorry, Revolution Come Revolution Go. I do have a few people looking for this though, because it's I think it was either hard to find on vinyl before, or it was discontinued, or something like that. New Lucas Nelson, Willie Nelson's son, and this is American Romance. There's a lot of American themes going on right now, and a lot of political stuff. Sort of that time of year. I'm doing this video on Juneteenth, actually. So, and this features songs with Stephen Wilson Jr. and Sierra Farrell. But Lucas right there, his new record, American Romance. Country, sorta, all right. Yeah, definitely country. S.G. Goodman and her new record, and this one's called Planting by the Signs, and this features Fire Sign vinyl for Indie Store exclusive. This is from 30 Tigers Records. She's sort of a singer-songwriter type, Americana, featuring Bonnie Prince Billy, Matthew Rowan, Clyde Charles, Mary Overby, and Myrtle Turner. So, new S.G. Goodman. Let's see. A new album from Youngblood. He's another sort of youngish. He's had a few records out, and this is his new album, Idols. He says he's going a little more, trying for the mainstream now. This is the exclusive retail version. Supermoon silver vinyl includes signed artwork, print, and collectible photo litho. So the new Youngblood. Interestingly, that's the album cover, the vinyl, and that's the CD cover, so quite different. So it's kind of an exclusive cover art situation there. All right, new album from Tropical F Storm. You know what the F is for, and I love this cover though. It's kind of like Land of the Lost or something, I don't know. Where the Wild Things Are. Fairyland Codex is the name of the album, limited edition magenta vinyl. They've had quite a few records too. They keep making them. Tropical F Storm. I wonder how hard it is for them to get booked sometime. I suppose where it depends on where you get booked or where you get played, depending on like what, you know, the situation with your name is. Okay. Couple of Blue Note classics this week. So these are the classics, not the Tone Poets, so a little bit cheaper, more affordable. Freddie Roach, Down to Earth, and Babyface Willette, Stop and Listen. The Freddie Roach features Kenny Burrell on guitar, and the Babyface Willette features Grant Green on guitar. So in effect, you have Kenny Burrell and Grant Green records with these other guys that are sort of unique, and they always are mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. So they sound good, and they're definitely a little more affordable. They're in the like $30 range, where the Tone Poets are usually closer to the 40-ish. All right. New album from James McMurtry, and this one is called The Black Dog and the Wandering Boy. This is a limited edition khaki color vinyl featuring Sailing Away, and South Texas Law, South Texas Lawman. On the sticker, it says South Texas Lawman. Had me sort of stumped there a second, but this is a limited edition. Also, it's an autographed vinyl. There's 1,000 of them. So, new James McMurtry. Let's see. This is a reissue. MJ Lenderman and Wednesday. MJ's been super popular, and this is an older EP that they did maybe 5 years ago or so. Guttering is what it's called. It's an olive green vinyl. MJ is actually sort of a member of Wednesday, but he also has quite a thriving solo career now, and so they're kind of going back and picking up some of the older material because he is so popular that it's like, oh. And the band Wednesday have a new record coming out in September, I believe. September is going to be a pretty busy month with indie records. I just saw Big Thief is releasing their new album. There's a bunch of others, so I'll keep you posted. If you go back and look at last week's video, the last 10 minutes or so, I just sort of read off a bunch of new releases that we are expecting in the next 3 months or so. So that was a pretty, hopefully, informative video. All right. I was going to do recommends this week, and I figure because I sort of threw people off last time, or one of the last times, maybe 2 weeks ago, doing it sort of in the middle of the video, I'm going to do it again. Sorry. But I think it's easier to do it while I'm doing this because it's something that it's an older record, but it's being reissued. My recommend this week is Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark's Junk Culture. And this is an album that sort of, in America, it kind of was more of a pop record, I suppose. It was the first one that I ever heard. So I was a little bit later to the party with OMD because, well, they'd been around for a little bit, but this is the album that I heard first. And it made me go back and investigate their older ones, too. I really liked them. So OMD, Andy McCluskey, and Paul Humphreys mainly were originally signed to Factory Records, the same label that spawned Joy Division and New Order. And I believe they were actually the first signing, and they got sort of lured by Virgin Records over to that side of things. I think, I don't know, something, maybe Dindisk had something to do with that. But anyway, they sort of moved away to the major label system fairly quickly and produced 2 or 3 really great sort of atmospheric kind of new wave records early on, used a lot of sort of keyboards in unique ways. And then their fourth album, I believe, Dazzle Ships, was the one that came right before this. And it was sort of critically like they didn't know what to do with it, but mainly it was a commercial flop. And they'd already had a lot of hits, singles in Europe. And to have a flop, it was like, ooh, that was risky. So this was the kind of retrenchment, the turnaround, like what are we going to do to move on from here. And this is actually a fairly experimental album in some ways. It's a half-speed master edition, by the way, so it sounds supposed to sound really good. Eventually I'll hear this version. But so one thing they did is they sort of restored the original track listing by flipping the first 2 songs, at least in America. I don't know about Europe, but Tesla Girls used to be the first song, and now it's the second song. Junk Culture, the title track, used to be the second song, and now it's the first song. So OMD used to do a lot of instrumentals on their records. Do like 3 or 4 vocal songs, 2 or 3, whatever, and then there'd be an instrumental. And that's something that we don't really necessarily get with pop records anymore because I don't think the record companies feel like bands are allowed to waste time with, or what they would consider wasting time, with something that doesn't have the person actually singing on it somewhere. So this album, even though it's more pop than the previous albums from them, it does still have instrumentals. And the first song, Junk Culture, is an instrumental. This album was also kind of a change for them because it signaled a point where the duo kind of went towards a little bit more of a kind of an islandy kind of sound. Like there's a lot of Caribbean influence. There's a lot of sort of, even though there's still drum machines on it, it's got more shuffling kind of rhythms and islandy stuff. I think you kind of get that from the cover art somewhat. It's a little more like you get the sounds of like kind of like rhythmic type guitar stuff and sort of like steel drum sounds, whether or not they're processed through keyboards. I think a fair amount of them are. But quirky sounds, they always were unique in the sounds that they used, even though the music was very sort of pop. It's also, you hear bands from that era in the early 80s in particular who used a lot of presets on records that were, or on synthesizers that were all kind of the same sound. And it would get really kind of tired after a while, like hearing, oh my gosh, can their keyboardists like ever like create their own kind of patch, and get away from these presets? And I think OMD did a really good job of not relying on presets. They were more like always experimenting and finding unique ways of dealing with the sound. So for a synth pop band, they did have a very unique sound. I say did, I mean do. They're still out there touring and making albums and stuff. I think the last one just came out about a year and a half ago. So there was a period there where they broke up for quite a while, but so they've made a few more. But anyway, so it starts with Junk Culture, which is kind of a sort of islandy, kind of darker, moody. It sort of sounds like one of those tracks that would be influential to some other like kind of 90s like DJ band, like not DJ bands, but bands that were sort of more like trip hop, or sort of like more like the DJ culture bands, even ones like Saint Etienne that were more kind of flowery sounding. It has that kind of darker tone to it. Then Tesla Girl is a big sort of pop song, and this is returned apparently to the original version. The one that came out in America was an edit of the 12-inch mix, so it will sound a little bit different here. Then you get Locomotion, and which is kind of one of their very catchy sort of kind of walking bass type islandy songs. And that song and the last song, Talking Loud and Clear, are also, that one's a little less islandy sounding, but it also has that kind of walking bass sound, and it's a very beautiful kind of closer, very reflective. Some of these other tracks, Apollo is also a instrumental. Let's see, Never Turn Away is kind of more sort of dark and meandering. Sometimes songs like Love and Violence or Hard Day. I think this early era, it feels like Andy is experimenting with his voice a lot. So there's still a lot of like, I wouldn't call it yelping, but it's almost like over singing. And I don't know if he would even want to re-record them at this point, because he's so sort of like over the top with it. Many times he gets very hushed and kind of whispery, but other times he can get almost like strident with the singing. So it's kind of like an acquired taste, I suppose. It took me a little bit of time to kind of adjust to that. But they're catchy songs. Again, a lot of island influences. I think Hard Day in particular, though, that one has a lot of sort of that kind of singing. And then All Wrapped Up in White Trash are a little more sort of islandy sounding, and they have kind of more like different song structures. It's not like typical verse, chorus all the time. There's a lot of chanting vocals and stuff like that. But anyway, it's kind of a fun summary record. Although I don't remember what time of year it came out. It is the precursor to the Breakfast Club song. If You Leave came out after this, and then also the Crush album with So in Love, where they went pretty full on pop mainstream kind of with a lot of it. Not all. There's still the thing is that OMD was still always experimental. They really looked up to bands like Kraftwerk, look up to Kraftwerk, and have now in the more recent years become sort of like the British Kraftwerk, where they use a lot of that kind of super synthetic tone, but try to still have a foot in pop. So they're a little more pop than Kraftwerk are. But anyway, OMD. All right, moving right along. Sorry about that. Gorillas. Tomorrow Comes Today. This is a EP. It's a 20th anniversary edition on a sort of blue and white splatter vinyl, and this features 4 tracks from the original Tomorrow Comes Today EP. I think there's going to be more Gorillaz activity later this year. They're promising a record. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, the reissue of the soundtrack on yellow vinyl. So if you've missed that, it's another great summery thing. So thinking like summer now is the thing. All American Rejects and a reissue of their album, self-titled 20th Anniversary Edition. Original album on green ghostly vinyl and a bonus 7-inch featuring 2 rare tracks. The rare tracks are the Cigarette Song acoustic and Don't Leave Me demo. And if you've been following All American Rejects, you know that there's been a fair amount of talk recently about the lead singer promoting it on OnlyFans, but apparently that means that he's playing stuff on OnlyFans. He's not, I don't know. And I don't want to know. 3 Doors Down and their new record, The Better Life. Not new record, new reissue. I think this was the album that sort of put them over on the top. This was the one with Kryptonite, Loser, Better Life, Duck and Run, Not Enough, Be Like That. Interesting cover with this green foil thing. I wonder if the record is color. Doesn't say on the cover. Anyway, 3 Doors Down. They keep putting out reissues here, and I believe their lead singer just had a pretty tough cancer diagnosis, so it's a good thing that they're putting those out. Eels, Souljacker. This is one of the sort of early mid-period Eels records, including Souljacker Parts 1 and 2, Fresh Feeling, and Woman Driving, Man Sleeping. This is on a 1 LP red vinyl. So if you're an E fan, I think that's what he goes by, right, Mark E. I wish that they would reissue Electroshock Blues, and I hope that it comes out on vinyl soon again. It's been hard to find. That's a really great album about people in his family who passed away. Joshua Redman and a new record for him on Blue Note Records, a jazz guy, and it's called Words Fall Short. 8 tracks. Starts with Message to Unsend. He was on Warner for many years, so it's cool to see him on Blue Note, where he'll get some actual attention for jazz. Health's Rat Wars, a reissue of this. This is on, I believe, gray and white sort of vinyl. The track listing is there. They're sort of kind of industrial rock, pop, sort of 9 Inch Nails influenced, and reissue of Fields of the Nephilim, Burning the Fields. I have this covered up, of course. This is the debut EP releases plus remixes, demos, and disc. This is newly remastered. I think that this has actually been reissued once or twice already, but if you missed it for some reason, here's another pressing of Fields of the Nephilim. They do still have their fans out there. Gnarls Barkley, a reissue of The Odd Couple. This is the album that features Who's Gonna Save My Soul. So this was the second one, which is kind of harder to find. The first one had Crazy on it, which was a huge hit. But Who's Gonna Save My Soul is great. This is CeeLo Green and Danger Mouse. And CeeLo had some issues in the last few years, and hopefully he's getting back on track here. Wage War and a reissue of their album Pressure. And this is on transparent Moonstone vinyl, limited to 500. So those won't be around long. And let's see. Oh, my favorite of this original part of this pile, as far as like reissues go. Well, I don't know about favorite, but it's kind of fun, is the Y2K25, the music that made the millennium. So this is the best of Y2K. Get this track listing, y'all. Oops, I Did It Again, Britney Spears. Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera. I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. Bye 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 by NSYNC. You've got four of the biggest hits of that era right there. Then Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus. Waiting for Tonight by J-Lo. Heartbreaker by Mariah and Jay-Z. Livin' La Vida Loca by Ricky Martin. Miss Jackson by Outkast. No Scrubs by TLC. There You Go by Pink. And Maria Maria by Santana. A fun record, a summer party record, and it's cheap at $23. So, all right. A couple of CDs of note this week: The Cure and the Mixes for a Lost World, or Mixes of a Lost World, double CD. The vinyl came out last week. It's remixes of the last album. Greg Allman Band, One Night in DC. This is from May 1984. And yeah, it's just Greg at that period. Features performances of Melissa, Midnight Rider, and Lee Scratch Perry on The Wire, reissue of this album on CD from 2000. He did it for Trojan Records. It's got, it says On the Wire, the album, and then the studio recordings, which are alternate mixes and dubs on the second CD. I wanted to highlight a couple of local musicians this week. First of all, I have these two albums that have come out. This area just has some real talent, and it's cool seeing some of my people that I know putting out records on vinyl and doing things the sort of the right way, the traditional way, and working really hard at it. And this one is by Randy Smith, and it's called Blue Day. And it's a really great pop rock record if you're into like the sounds of like Oasis and sort of the singer-songwritery rock of like the 80s and even like some of the 70s a little bit going back. And it's very melodic. And he's had a lot of events in the area trying to promote this. Currently has a contest on Rolling Stone and is trying to get into the winning position of the contest and get his record out in front of a live audience. So his nieces actually participate in this. They sing backup, and it's a great record. Sunrise is a great song. My favorite is Through Time. If you want to go to YouTube and check that out, you can hear clips of it or full songs. I highly recommend that. I also highly recommend my friends. I know some of these people here. I'm not going to lie. All the Living and the Dead. I teach this kid piano. But his parents are both in this band with some of my other people that I would say are acquaintances, friends. But great singer-songwriter type pop rock. They're out kind of doing their thing. Sort of a mix of like REM and Arcade Fire. There are at least three songwriters in the band. I would say four. And there's some really great songs on this record. It came out at the end of last year. They just had a show at Johnny Brenda's in Philly and are playing lots of places. So if you get out, get a chance to see All the Living and the Dead. This is their album that came out at the end of last year on Tiger vinyl. There's also like Tiger's Eye. There's a regular version too. But yeah, and I don't know. I just there's some of them are school teachers. That's like their day job. Graphic artists, music teachers, English teachers. So it's great hearing people still following their passion and their dream and putting out great stuff when they're, no longer like young sprites. But I think that there needs to be more of that in the world. And also just this week, another person that I know, but I follow and love his music. It's fantastic also. He put out his new album, Ben Smith and Outro. and outro sort of being like the part at the end of the song that sort of fades out. But great cover art here. It's very singer-songwritery, but in sort of like a kind of Randy Newman-esque way. I'd sort of say if you're into like Amy Mann, classic singer-songwriter stuff. Little David Byrne too. One of my favorite songs, "Wash Them All Away," is very David Byrne-esque. The last track, Backwards God," is sort of about people's love for their dog, and specifically his, and when the dog's life is over. It's a very touching song. My one friend said it's the best song about a person's love of a dog and their passing from the world that they'd heard since Cat Stevens' song. And also, there's Big Thief. Adrienne Lenker wrote a song that also features quite a portion of it dedicated to the passing of her dog. So very touching stuff. But check out his video for What Do They Know? It's on YouTube. It's great. One of his former students, he's also a teacher, filmed that and did a fantastic job. So those are three really great local things I think you should be listening to, or at least check out if you're into any of that kind of stuff. I just wanted to end a little bit by sort of sharing with you what's coming next week. I know I did some of this in the last video, but next week we should be getting the new Bruce Springsteen box set, Tracks 2. If you want it, you're going to have to let me know, because I'm not going to have just a bunch of them sitting on the shelf. The CDs are $300. The CDs are $300. The vinyl is $400, okay? So there's not going to be a ton of them, but it contains 7 or 8 unreleased albums from the early 80s to the late 90s. So there's a lot of material in there that people are probably going to be wanting. But again, you're going to have to let me know. Frank Zappa has a new box set, Cheaper Than Cheap. It's sort of a TV broadcast he did at one point. Lord's new album comes out next week. The recent Playboi Carti album is going to be released on vinyl. There's a Chappell Roan 7-inch for her recent song. The F1 soundtrack is next week. A couple of soul releases from Duran Jones, Robert Randolph, who's more bluesy. The Swell Season, who did the Once soundtrack many years ago, that's coming out. There's a live Muna record, a live Skynyrd record. Robin Trower has a deluxe reissue of one of his early records. There's a soundtrack from M83. White Stripes have a reissue of, I think, Get Behind Me, Satan. Rod Stewart has a best of. Motorhead has a reissue. There are a couple Rhino Reserve titles coming from Baby Huey, The Meters, and actually Otis Redding, Otis Blue as well. Kid Leroy's new album, Deep Blue Something, have a return album. These people coming out of the woodwork. Adrian Casada of Black Pumas has a new record. Billy Woods, the physical of his new album, which has been getting very critically praised all over Pitchfork and the internet. So there's that. An OJC original jazz classic from Lee Morgan, A Verve Acoustic Sounds from Buddy Guy. Those are reissues. Greg Allman, live at Uncle Sam's LP. Hopefully that shows up soon. And Turnpike Troubadours have a new record. There are probably more, but those are just kind of the general for next week. And then remember, the week after, that's the week that's a lot of the Rhino stuff gets reissued. There's all 6 Doors albums are coming out on the Rhino Hi-Fi. And then there's the Elektra 75th series, which I mentioned, things like Super Drag and Anita Baker, and there's a lot of Elektra records. It's coming out July 4th, all that stuff. The store will be closed. We're usually closed on July 4th, and we're actually going to be closed from the 3rd through the 8th. So there is a period there that we're not going to be here. So hopefully you can be a little patient. Maybe you've got stuff going on, and pick some of that stuff up again starting July 9th. So, all right. I think that's everything that I had as an update for today. Thank you so much for joining me again. Check out those albums from Randy and All the Living the Dead and Ben Smith. Randy and Ben Smith. They're not related, but Smith is a common name. All right. So anyway, but they're both great, and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next week. It's gonna start getting really hot out here, so stay in and play your records. All right. Peace. Take care. Love you. See ya.